Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. I am Ronaldo McKenzie. And today I bring you a report of a breaking news, or a news that was breaking yesterday and it's still developing. A quiet morning commute yesterday on a Brooklyn subway quickly became a war zone, leaving more than 20 people injured. And this is according to NYC mayor from a report that was done by CNN, where the report says that passengers on a Manhattan-bound train had to dodge bullets while being blinded by smoke during the Tuesday morning commute, setting off a manhunt for a gunman whose motives are still unknown. And this is what happened yesterday. And today, they still haven't found Mr. James, the gentleman who they believe is responsible for this event. Well, there's no charges. This is just an allegation. But I want to say this to you. Yesterday, when this story broke, I thought about it, and I say to you that I thought about the whole issue of guns and the murder rate rising sharply. And I published an article recently, 2 days or 3 days ago, or the day before President Biden unveiled his new set of actions to fight against guns. And let me say this. When you listen to when you listen to Fox and CNN and MSNBC and everyone, it is as if the guns are responsible. It is as if guns which are inanimate objects, and just so you know, guns are lethal weapons. They are tools. They are strategy that human beings create to carry out or to increase, to maintain, or to establish power. Just as how socially power use social issues such as racism or slavery to extend power or to realize power or to create power, whatever the case is, it is an issue of power where people want to carry out a particular action and they create the means to do so. Guns are not responsible for the deaths of people who have been killed by it. People kill people. Guns don't kill people. Guns are means to an end, and I've said that over and over. So, and if we look at the wrong thing, we get the wrong results. And that's what has happened in society. We're looking at the wrong things, and we're getting the same results because people don't kill people. And I wrote in the article concerning murder rates climbing in this country sharply, that we need to look at other issues such as pop culture, social media, such as we have to look at issues of socialization, how kids are socialized, who are raising the kids, because who are the people committing the crime and how are they being raised? Those are some of the questions we have to ask ourselves. I said that okay, we have to look at the Grand Theft Auto, and we said that in a report that we carried recently, that carjackings and theft and stealings are on a rise in Philadelphia, and the report on the ground, the interviews and the research and the investigations that I carry out and that we carry out here, and that the information that's coming in from law enforcement and other people are that it is happening because many of the young kids are committing the crime below 24, 20, 25. And it's happening because they are, in a sense, reenacting the Grand Theft Auto. The Grand Theft Auto. This Grand Theft Auto, I don't know how many people know the Grand Theft Auto video game. But where where you can kill as you like and you can steal as you like and so on and so forth. And that those are the games that people play. And that plays a role in terms of how people think, in terms of people's psyche, the psychology, the development of people, of human beings, from childhood into adolescence and so on. And I said to you, parents are not there. The parents aren't at home these days because they have to be hustling to make ends meet while they leave their kids to chance. And I talk about that. Okay, but I also talk about issues of poverty, because I talk about since 2011 or 2012, we talk about poverty. More poor people are getting poorer in this country. Median income has fell, and it's not just in the U.S. If you look at Jamaica and the Caribbean, and even if you look at the U.S. and the countries, poor people who are usually vulnerable people in society. People who people who are experiencing homelessness and so on. Homelessness is on the rise, and we talk about the economic fallout. And by the way, I was just reworking my website yesterday, and we talk about, there's a story I carried last year, October, where I said economists are pushing the recovery further and further out. And today, especially with what's going in Ukraine and Russia, with oil, with energy crisis, that's not making it easy, because prices are rising, inflation is high, and we are already coming from COVID, already dealing with COVID, and many doors shutting down, and many people who usually rely on certain jobs and certain service sectors, a lot of these working class people and so on, who normally rely on certain jobs, they can't rely on these jobs no more. Okay, because and even now with COVID coming back on the rise, and now that I think Philadelphia has just released this masking. So I talk about this homelessness, poverty, the fall in median income, and you can look at the Pew. You can actually go into the RonaldoCMcKenzie.com or go to the neoliberal.com, the new and improved the neoliberal.com website, and look at some of the articles where I talk about poverty and income, and I study poverty and income in my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance. And in fact, I talk about, in order for us to truly deal with the issues in society, we have to do a proper analysis. And I talk about the music, and I played Pooh Shiesty and featuring Little Durk's song "Back in Blood." You get it back in blood, which means homicide, means you revenge. You if you have to kill. So when you talk about you get it back in blood, now talk about why am I saying all of this today in relation to the news of what happened yesterday? A quiet morning commute on Brooklyn subway quickly became a war zone, leaving more than 20 people injured. According to the news story, passengers on a Manhattan-bound train had to dodge bullets while being blinded by smoke during the Tuesday morning commute, setting off a manhunt for a gunman whose motives are still unknown. Now, as I read the article, they are saying that the gentleman, Mr. James, is still at large. Apparently, he rented a vehicle on Monday from U-Haul store in Philadelphia. Mr. James rented a van on Monday from a U-Haul store in Philadelphia, according to some company records obtained by various news sources, CNN and Fox and the Associated Press. And they're saying, and the record shows that the U-Haul reservation was made on Wednesday and was scheduled to be picked up on Monday at 2:01 p.m. The van was supposed to be rented for 2 days, according to the reservation. The records show that James rented the van using a Wisconsin license with a Milwaukee address. Now, NYPD Commissioner, the story goes on to say, Keishant Sewell, said there are possibly some social media postings connected to James in which he mentions homelessness, New York, and Mayor Eric Adams. And as a result of that, the mayor's security detail, according to the story, the CNN report, was heightened out of an abundance of caution, Sewell said. But you notice what's going on here. The NYPD commissioner, Kishant Sewell, said that there are possibly some social media postings connected to the suspect James, in which he mentions what? Homelessness. Now, I talked about yesterday, ghost guns. President Biden photo blitz day before yesterday that talks about war on crime by appointing a new attorney as to head up the ATF, and that's part of the problem. We keep hiring attorneys, but anyway, we hired a new attorney, a new person will now head up the ATF, and they are now and the persons who sell guns can't sell guns without license anymore, and that was already on the book. So I don't know how that has changed. People are required to sell license with a gun, and that's what I'm telling you. It's people and the will that people have. But and this greed as well. We're infected by this issue of greed. This, and I talk about that in the article in the podcast recently. That if you check the nearlybold.com and various news feeds, this greed as well. In addition to all that's happening, because Cites will tell you that's what my fans are listening to. That's what sells. That's what sells. What is sell is part of the problem for crime and violence. What sells is part of the problem for crime and violence, and it's everywhere. Because some people will tell you that gun owners don't want to apply more law because it's also going to any more reform, because it's also going to affect their pockets. It's always about the pocket, the bottom line. And I wrote in an article, who rules America? Who rules America? And I said, it's no longer but it's the bottom line. I said to you, it's the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line. And then I talk about China, because China understands this American capitalism and American greed and connectionism and nepotism. They understand American bottom line, which is their pocket, and okay. But your people's pockets are their downfall in many instances. So there is, and then we talk about Grand Theft Auto. Excuse me, I'm quite sure that the people who make the video games, Grand Theft Auto, will be upset after hearing this show, and probably they may not want to do business with us. But we are about thinking analytically about how to make society better, serving the world today to solve the most challenges. And I understand that part of the problem is, okay, how do we deal with the issue of our bottom line? But so we're going after ghost guns. So and then again, it creates a problem, because the gun owners are saying it's not the guns that's the problem, okay? But we're singling out one issue, guns, when there is a myriad of issues that we have to look at. Guns, the music, so access to social media by underage kids who don't have parents there, who are jostling to make ends meet. So of course we have to deal with the issue of homelessness. Yes, we have to deal with the issue of homelessness and poverty, which is rising in this country, especially with median income falling. And we're talking, and not just disposable, but we're talking about real income after inflation and so on and so forth. Incomes are falling. And I'm not going to give you the figures. You can check our website for all the figures and data, RinaldoCMcKenzie.com, and the news and the article that I've complete. Or you could read my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance, where I talk about poverty and so on and so forth. But as a society, if we are serious about dealing with issues, we have to all fix the social issues as well, and not focus on the wrong things. If you focus on the wrong thing, you get the wrong results. We keep doing that, focusing on the wrong things and getting the wrong results. And that has always been the problem for humanity. And it's a problem for humanity because we don't want to focus on the right things, because if we start focusing on the right things, then it will affect position, power, and privilege, and our bottom line. So those are some of the things that we have to think about. Those are some of the things that we have to think about. But again, people do not kill people. Sorry, I apologize. Guns don't kill people. It's people that kill people. People who want to... Okay, guns are means to an end. Human beings create. We are creative. And just so you know, I said that what is... And by the way, what's going to happen when you create more gun reform and more gun control, as I've argued? You're going to create a black market, and we already have a black market. But what's going to happen with the black market? It's going to grow in leaps and bounds, and it's going to even create further challenges for people. Because when you're investigating crimes or murders, it's going to be difficult for you to identify individuals when the guns are obtained underground and no longer through a dealer that is licensed. Because if now you're saying that people must have license in order to sell a gun, and which was always on the book, people must have must sell weapons that have serials on them. So what is going to happen? And usually when people sell guns, when people are, they don't, I understand that there's a situation where individuals, I was speaking with someone in the military, a former sergeant in Philadelphia, Wissahickon, and he indicated that people don't want to know much when they're selling guns, because they don't want to know that you're going to use it to commit a crime, because they don't want to be implicated in it, but they want to make money off you. So so that's what is important in this country, and anyway in life, that's what is important: money. What's the bottom line? And so those are some of the issues that we have to think about, because we're going to create an underground economy where people now are selling guns, and we won't be able to find them because the ghost gun policy is requiring that ghost guns that do not have serials now have serials, so that now you can find them. And okay, but look at what happened yesterday in New York City. Are we looking for a gun? No, we're looking for a person. We're looking for someone. We're looking for a Mr. James. And we're not saying that, and people are innocent until proven guilty. We're not looking for a gun. But yet still, gun lobbyists and gun reformers are running around creating problems for people. Having us look at talking as if it's the guns are the problems. Guns are not the problem, because if human beings cannot find a gun, they find something else, like explosives. What we need to do is we need to work together as a society. And stop fixing problems in piecemeal ways by doing proper analysis. We have to look, and there has to be this political will to deal with the issue of poverty. And homelessness is a major issue in this country. Homelessness. And I say to you, you look at the regions. If you look at the map and the regions where most of the crime and the violence is taking place in this country, and it's taking place in certain cities. Yesterday, it was in New York, and according to the report to the NYPD commissioner, it would seem as if this young man, the person who committed the crime, had posted something up about homelessness, the issue of homelessness, and he's acting out And homelessness is an issue in New York and in many cities that's grappling with crime and violence. Many cities grappling with crime and violence. You know, we were supposed to be talking about a story with Obama today, Barack Obama, which I have not had a chance. The story that we should be talking about today is Barack Obama. And I have been trying to get to Barack Obama page for a while, if I could find it. I was trying, not a page, but a story that I did about the issue of information, and I wanted to spend some time to address it for you. It's communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. That's the story for our podcast, but we interspersed it today with a follow-up as it relates to what was happening yesterday. But we'll be right back after these messages, and when we come back, we will talk about communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. Birtherism to the big lie inside Obama's fight to counter disinformation. According to CNN, Barack Obama hopes to help regulate social media that promote disinformation and find ways to address the demand for crazies on the internet that has filled a void as news outlets have diminished. I disagree, because mainstream and major or local news and outlets and networks are just as crazy. Listen at the other end of the break. We'll be right back after this. Thank you. Welcome back to the Neoliberal Round podcast. And today, we were just discussing the alleged gunman who had shot and injured 20. And we indicated that the New York Commissioner, Mr. Keyshawn Sewell had indicated that the gunman, the alleged gunman, cites homelessness. And we were making a case for being more comprehensive in tackling crime and violence instead of singling out a particular political issue, which creates more division and which would actually, if we look at it more comprehensively, then we'll be able to actually deal with the problem of the sharp rise in crime and violence. But just before the break, we said that we were going to also have a discussion regarding inside Obama's fight against disinformation. And the title of this particular segment of the Neoliberal Round podcast is entitled Communication is to Make Popular What Was the Monopoly? Communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. And that this particular article and this particular episode and segment stems from a CNN news report or article that I had read about Barack Obama, and the article read that he had hoped to regulate social media. And I had indicated social media that promotes, Barack Obama hopes to help regulate social media that promote disinformation and find ways to address the demand for crazy on the internet that has filled a void as news outlets have diminished. And I had said I disagreed, because mainstream and major or local news and outlets and networks are just as crazy. And actually, I had tweeted this, and that's all I tweeted. But then I started to write. And as I wrote, it became an entire blog post and then an article. But I begin by saying that, by asking the question, who controls the narratives in the 21st century that has seen the decentralization of communication and control of information? Thanks to social and alternative media, therefore, no one really has control. What we have is a plethora of perspectives, staples of information for us to access and analyze. Information that was once reserved. This is necessary as it helps to realize the goal of communication, which is to make popular what was the monopoly. And man has always challenged or obstructed access to information to, as I've said, to increase, maintain, or establish power, or hold over a society or a people. However, social media challenges and is an affront to this power, even as it helps communication realizes its aims of making popular what was or is the monopoly. The drive to regulate information must be approached with a level of suspicion and scrutiny, because of the rational and so-called pure intentions of this regulatory effort to manage news, calling it a corrective means of dispelling misinformation or disinformation or crazy news. However, the strategy to do so would suggest that Americans aren't individuals with brains who can filter and analyze information and make decisions for themselves based on the news that they have received or based on external stimuli. The problem is that news have become a political and divisive issue, and the fact that social media helps to decentralize control of information, thereby providing greater access and several more diverse perspectives of the news, means that no one or two groups can control. Further, if you have money, then you can control the narrative. And when you look at elections and politics in America, one cannot rely on major news sources, as their news is riddled in political ideology and the spin of the news that satisfies their big money backers. Fox, CNN, and MSNBC are prime examples of news outlets that are not innocent of the crime of monopolizing the news for its cronies so as to extend their supporters' control or to create, establish, or maintain power or a political or particular political dynamic. So, social media poses problems for these major news outlets. The monies they will lose due to the competition and the political fallout. Yet, CNN today is carrying a story about Obama's work to regulate social media so as to, as they call it, preserve the integrity of news, when that has never been the case, given how divided major news is today. Again, yet CNN today is carrying a story about Obama's work to regulate social media so as to preserve the integrity of news, when that has never been the case, given how divided major news is today. In fact, And if truth be told, it is major news outlets that need regulating, given their responsibility that they have shirked over the years, succumbing to the new capitalism of nepotism, connectionism, and greed. News was never reserved for a few, and what is happening now is a response and reaction to what news had become. In effect, social media is a direct response and reaction to the control and corruption of corruption and information stemming from this divisive and nepotistic news cycle, which was at best divided and political. And just so you know, this particular episode is available in the Neoliberal Post via RonaldoCMcKenzie.com, and it's also available in the neoliberal.com. But let me continue. So, are we really trying to regulate news, or are we? Let me repeat what I'm saying here. I said, in fact, and if truth be told, it is major news outlets that need regulating, given their responsibility that they have shirked over the years, succumbing to the new capitalism of nepotism, connectionism, and greed. News was reserved for a few, and what is happening now is a response and reaction to what news had become. In effect, social media is a direct response and reaction to the control and corruption of communication and information stemming from this divisive and nepotistic news cycle, which was at best divided and political. So we are really are we really then trying to regulate news? Or are we censoring it to continue a monopoly of the news and media? Because communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. And mainstream news, monopoly over the media and news, have waned over the years with the growth of social media such as Facebook, Twitter, bloggers, podcasters, who now command a huge share of their audience. The issue is competition, which is what we encourage in this country. But they, the status quo, who had controlled information or the news at once, are seeking through policy and a hero of the people, Obama, so as to reposition themselves as the only arbiters of truth that is perspectival and slanted at best, in effect, re-centralizing control of information and remonopolizing communication through a soft means to make it appear as an innocent endeavor. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to repeat that. I said, the issue here is competition. Because are we really trying to regulate news? Or are we really censoring it to continue a monopoly of the news and media? Because communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. And mainstream news media over the monopoly over the media and news have waned over the years with the growth of social media. And they now command a huge share of their audience. So I'm saying the issue here must be competition, which is what we encourage in this country. But they, the status quo, had controlled information or the news at once, and are now seeking through policy and the hero of the people, who is Obama, so as to reposition themselves as the only arbiters of truth that is perspectival and slanted at best. In effect, re-centralizing control of information and remonopolizing communication through a soft means to make it appear as an innocent endeavor. Similarly, Russia is trying to recolonize Ukraine because Russia believes it's losing its hold on the region. This is no different. Those who were leaders of the news are now backing and promoting and supporting a plan and a scheme to remonopolize the news and media as their power decreases along with those of their backers. So control of information is becoming more decentralized and not centralized in a few hands, which is advantageous to the maintenance of privilege, or may I say, Right, what I'm talking about. So control of information is becoming more decentralized and not centralized in a few hands. And the centralization of information in a few hands is advantageous to the maintenance of privilege, power, status, and position in society. The regulation of social media speaks to the control of information, and totalitarian leaders and nations are infamous for controlling certain narratives so as to produce a particular effect, as in Russia and China. But where information is dispersed, it prevents this unilateral hold. However, in America, major news outlets are backing Obama's efforts to re-establish this centralization of the news through the regulation of social media, calling it ways to address disinformation, when the only way to do so is by having an educated mass of people who can utilize their brains to do the work of regulating news that is coming at them. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say that again. I said, in America, major news outlets are backing Obama's efforts, to re-establish this centralization of the news through the regulation of social media, calling it ways to address disinformation, when the only way to do so is by having an educated mass of people who can utilize their brains to do the work of regulating news that is coming at them. According to CNN, Barack Obama hopes to help regulate social media that promotes disinformation and find ways to address the demand for crazy on the internet that has filled a void as news outlets have diminished. I disagree, because mainstream and major or local news and outlets and networks are just as crazy and highly divisive, and has allowed for the news to be manipulated and controlled by the power brokers. News is slanted based on the sponsorship's ideological or political positions. Indeed, it's a political issue, not social media. And if anything, social media is a victory for social movements and mass of people who do not have access to a wide variety of news that they can analyze and make their own conclusions. What should happen is for us to educate our people to be better filters of news. We are not a country that regulates news so as to restore the power dynamics that has kept or that have kept down the masses or certain people. But mainstream news and their sponsors who use their wealth and power to maintain hold over the news cycle, which is waning due to social news media and other alternative news, feel justified by their actions to remonopolize and take back control of information through political policy and systems they control, just as how Putin is saying he feels justified in the denazification process of Ukraine. Yet, they defend their regulatory attempts and plans by hurling fake news accusations at social media news outlets and platforms such as BuzzFeed on the Trump dossier issue. In fact, that's the title of a story ran by Daily Kos News on January 15, 2017. According to the story written by Egberto Willis, and I quote, "It was inevitable that the mainstream media would run for cover. BuzzFeed gave them a gem by publishing a confidential dossier detailing Donald Trump's connections to Russia. And they were happy to base much of their reporting on it. But in this era of fake news, euphoria quickly turned into panic. The Trump dossier, filled with salacious allegations of tapes supposedly held by the Russians, is unverified. And BuzzFeed went ahead and reported it as such. Predictably, every major news outlet ran with the story, despite the various disclaimers. After Donald Trump vehemently denied the allegations and called out BuzzFeed and CNN for delivering fake news, the mainstream media panics started to set in. The mainstream media's condemnation of alternative or other social media news, such as BuzzFeed, on this issue is unjustified. Firstly, and by the way, and that's the end of the article, and the article ended there. But I am going to end by saying the mainstream media's condemnation of alternative or other social media news, such as BuzzFeed, on this issue is unjustified. First, they don't have the credibility to pass judgment, given their inability to prevent their airwaves and other properties from being used for disseminating life-altering lies. Second, they continue to function as wards of the plutocracy by only promoting their ideology over what is best for Americans and humanity as a whole. And by the way, this is the article. The article continues. Mr. Willis, Egberto Willis, continues. It's time for the alternative media to stand up. And that's for mainstream media outlets. Until they live up to their constitutional role, they will remain irrelevant. And if you go to my ReinaldoCMcKenzie.com and you check the neoliberal post, you'll see a copy of this article posted. For some reason, someone is kind of messing with my websites and has pushed down this article. It is the latest article, but it would seem that it is not. But for some reason, I cannot get it to the front of the post. No matter what I try, something is blocking my ability to stick this particular post to the front of it. But if you go to the ReinaldoCMcKenzie.com, you will see this article, and you'll see the entire article, and you can also see links to Egberto's article. But I ended this article by saying this: we should be very nervous and suspicious of major news, their political supporters, and wealthy sponsors who are leading the charge to reconsolidate their control over the news and information. What moral authority do they have to impose their control that has been at best political and divisive? When social media affects their position and power, and the access and decentralization of information pose problems and threats for them and their narratives and what they hope to achieve. I'm going to repeat. Having said all that we have said, we should be very nervous and suspicious of major news, their political supporters, and wealthy sponsors who are leading the charge to reconsolidate their control over the news and information. What moral authority do they have to impose their control that has been at best political and divisive? When social media affects their position and power, and the access and decentralization of information pose problems and threats for them and their narratives and what they hope to achieve. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. And please, you can donate to the program by checking on the details of this particular podcast, and it will tell you or explain to you how you may contribute. And you can also send us a feedback by also going online to ReinaldoCMcKenzie.com and sending feedback, or to theneoliberal.com. Visit any of our pages, and you can also access a myriad of resources and news, and the news magazine that we have. Actually, we just updated the neoliberal.com. We had said that it's better. It's even much better now. We did a lot of work on it. We recognized that it had major issues. We actually lost our partnership with Impact because of some problems we were having with our website. It came under tremendous attack, and we have been working hard to set up all the necessary features and all the necessary. I have been putting in the work, and it's actually much better. We have a lot of contributors, a lot of content. We have lots of articles, and we're developing. You can contribute to the newspaper if you'd like, and to the magazine, and to any one of our programs. Thank you so much for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. And please check out my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance. And if you want to have a discussion about some of the concepts, or the new book that I'm writing called Privilege, Power, Position, and Status, and the Secrets to Unlocking Divine Intervention, please reach out to me at ReinaldoCMcKenzie.com, or the Neoliberal Core at ReinaldoCMcKenzie.com, or the Neoliberal Core at theneoliberal.com. Take care and have a great day. Thank you for listening again to the Neoliberal Round podcast. I am your host, Ronaldo McKenzie. The Neoliberal Round is brought to you by the Neoliberal Corporation and sponsored by Anchor.fm by Spotify.